The mouse of the day is Curious Craig, and Curious Craig had always been a little bit different. See, while most other mice were content to gather cheese, scamper through the tunnels, and just stick to their routines that always kept them safe and well fed, Craig was always searching for something more. He wanted to know why things worked the way they did, why the sun rose and set, why certain plants grew near the riverbank and never in the village, and most importantly, what lay beyond the familiar boundaries of the mouse burrow. The places no other mouse dared to explore. His family were some hard-working, simple mice, and they tried to encourage him to settle down. They told him stories of the dangers that lurked outside the mouse village. There were birds, prey, cats, traps, humans, other unknown terrors. Stay close to home, his parents would always say. Curiosity will only lead you into trouble. But Craig couldn't help himself. The more he was told to stay away from something, the more he had to know about it. He wasn't reckless, well, not entirely, but that urge to understand the world drove him forward, even when it meant taking risks that no other mouse would normally take. See, one summer, as the other mice were busy storing away food for the winter, Craig overheard something that set his whiskers twitching with excitement. A group of elder mice were sitting by the great oak tree at the center of the village, speaking in hushed tones. Craig was passing by when he caught word of the legend. His ears perked up. The legends were always interesting. The elders continued talking, not noticing him. They spoke of a place deep in the woods, a place that none of them had ever dared to visit. There was said to be a great stone tower there, crumbling and ancient, surrounded by mist and shadow. According to the legend, the tower was built by the mouse of old, long before the village was ever founded. It was said to contain secrets about the world, about the past, and even about things that no mouse had ever dreamed of. But no one knew for sure because the tower was also said to be cursed. Craig's heart raced. A cursed tower in the woods? A place filled with secrets? He knew right then and there that he had to find it. For days he couldn't stop thinking about the tower. He tried to learn more, asking the elders about the legend, and tried to figure it out through some casual conversation, but they were reluctant about it. Every time Craig brought it up, they brushed it off as an old tale, something meant to scare young mice into staying in the village boundaries. There's nothing out there, they would say. Just stories to keep you from wandering too far. But Craig wasn't convinced. Why else would they pass it down for so many generations? One evening, just as the sun was beginning to set, Craig made his decision. He would go into the woods. He'd find the tower, and he would see for himself what was inside. He didn't tell anyone. He knew they would only try to stop him. Instead, he gathered a few supplies, tucked some cheese into his satchel, and slipped out of the burrow under the cover of dusk. The woods loomed ahead of him, dark and foreboding. As he ventured deeper, the familiar sounds of the village faded away, replaced by the rustling of leaves and the occasional hoot of an owl in the distance. Hoot! The deeper he went into the woods, the thicker the mist became. Soon it was difficult to see more than a few feet in front of him. Just when Craig was beginning to doubt himself, wondering if maybe the elders had been right and there was no tower, no secrets to be found, he saw it. The tower. It rose out of the mist like a ghostly figure, its stone walls cracked and crumbling with age. Vines clung to its sides, winding up the tower. The tower was taller than Craig had ever imagined, impossibly tall. For something so ancient and forgotten, it was so tall. He stood there for a moment, staring up at it, a mix of awe and fear in his chest. But this was it. He had found it. Craig approached very, very cautiously. His claws were barely making a sound on the soft ground. As he neared the base of the tower, he noticed something strange. The mist that had just been so thick around him seemed to just part. It was only slightly, but it seemed like it was avoiding the tower itself. The air was still, and for the first time since entering the woods, Craig found a chill run down his spine. The entrance to the tower was a small arched doorway, half covered in ivy. It looked like it hadn't been used in centuries. Craig hesitated, his claw hovering over the latch. What if the legends were true and there were things inside that no mouse was ever meant to discover? But then that familiar pull of curiosity took over. He couldn't turn back now, not after coming all this way. The inside of the tower was dark, but as Craig's eyes started to adjust, he could make out the outline of a spiraling staircase. The walls were lined with faded tapestries. The inside of the tower was dark, but as Craig's eyes adjusted, he could make out the outline of a spiraling staircase leading up into the gloom. The walls were lined with faded tapestries, their colors long since dulled by time. Dust covered everything. Thick layers of it, undisturbed for what seemed like ages. But there was something else too, a faint glow coming from somewhere above. Craig's heart raced again, but this time it wasn't just fear, it was excitement too. There was something here, something waiting for him to discover. He began to climb the stairs, his claws barely making a sound on the worn stone steps. The higher he went, the brighter the glow became. It wasn't a harsh light, but rather a soft, ethereal glow, sort of like Ethereal Edward. It reminded Craig of moonlight, but much more mystical. As he reached the top of the stairs, he found himself standing in a small circular room. At the center of the room, there was a pedestal, and on that pedestal sat an object. Small, round, and glowing, with a soft blue light. Craig approached slowly, his eyes fixed on the object. It looked like a stone, but it shimmered as if it were alive, pulsing gently with each step he took. Craig remembered the words of his parents and the elders of the village. He knew they wouldn't have been wanting him to do this, but he couldn't help himself. Craig reached out his claw, his curiosity getting the better of him once again. As soon as he touched the stone, the room seemed to come alive. The The tapestries on the wall began to move, rippling as though they were stirred by an invisible breeze. The air around him grew warmer, and there was a faint hum as if there was an energy in the room. And then the voice spoke. "You have found the heart of the tower," it said, echoing softly in the chamber. Craig froze, his paw still on the resting stone. His voice was calm, almost soothing, but there was an undeniable power behind it. Who are you?" Craig stammered. His heart was racing. "I've been here for countless generations, waiting for one mouse brave enough to seek the truth."
Go.
Craig was both extremely curious but also scared. "And now you stand at the threshold of knowledge that few mice have ever had a glimpse of. But be warned, the answers you find may not be what you expect or want." Craig knew there was more to the world than what other mice believed. He knew it was more than just gathering cheese and staying safe in the village. He'd always felt that there was something bigger, something worth discovering. "I want to know," he said, his voice steady despite the fear bubbling inside of him. "I want to know everything." The voice was silent for a moment, and then the glow from the stone pulsed again, brighter and brighter until it was almost blinding. "Very well, curious Craig," the voice said. "You shall have your answers, but remember, curiosity can lead to very dangerous places." And with that, the light enveloped him, and Craig felt the world shift around him. The tower, the woods, the village, all of it faded away as the secrets of the ancient world unfolded before him. And for the first time in his life, Craig wasn't sure if he was ready for what he was about to discover. Craig started to walk forward, still holding the stone very closely between his claws to keep him safe, and he held up his magnifying glass to examine the secrets before him, and he learned so much. It was worth it, guys. I can't reveal the secrets of the universe to you. You'll have to find the tower in the woods if you want to know. Curious Craig knows, though, and I honestly think that he is very happy after learning the secrets, but as you can see by his wide eyes, he's a little bit terrified also. Like, I don't know if he was ready to learn all those secrets of the universe, but do you guys mess with Curious Craig?